We're going to call to order with a roll call. Alan Silly,
Present.
Kathleen DeWolf,
Present.
Fran Newton,
Present.
I saw Andy in here somewhere. Andy Fitch,
Present.
Eli Badger is here. Approval of minutes from 11/16.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, November 16th, 2020.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Have a little dressing.
Roll call vote. Alan Silly,
Aye.
Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. First order of business under new business is Vermont Public Power Supply Authority's presentation.
Okay. Chairman Badger, let me jump right in here. Last meeting, we had a presentation from Eaton Corporation about installing AMI meters from, sorry, my screen just flickered there and it startled me for a second, from Eaton. Another vendor that we are considering for this project is VEPSA, which is Vermont Public Power Supply Authority. This venture would be a little bit different than one with Eaton, as VEPSA is our current broker for our power purchase agreements, and they help small municipalities that have municipal electric, such as ourselves. And this project is something that VEPSA and Ken Nolan have been working on for a few other communities, not just ourselves. We are actually, it would be a collaboration of sorts. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Ken St. Amour. Hopefully I pronounced that right, Ken Nolan, and Jackie Lemmerhart.
Great. Thanks, Charlie. I'm just going to spend a couple of seconds framing the conversation, and I'll turn it over to Ken and Jackie. For those who don't know, I'm Ken Nolan. I'm the general manager at Vermont Public Power. I've met most of you before, I believe, talking about power transactions typically. On the AMI front, this is a project that we started about 3 years ago on behalf of our municipal members in Vermont. So we serve 11 different municipalities within the state of Vermont under a membership arrangement, and then provide services to a number of utilities outside of Vermont on a contractual basis, which is how we've been working with Ashland historically, and have New Hampshire as well, and a utility in Maine that we work with. The AMI program is something that our membership started looking at. They asked us to do some research. So we've gone through a pretty complete RFP process ourselves, and Jackie will be able to describe that to you. We're now converting more into the implementation phase. So we've chosen a vendor that we are going to use. We're starting to structure what the cost allocation will look like. But as an overall perspective here, this would be something that we would manage through VEPSA and provide AMI services out to all of our members and any other utilities that wanted to work with us. So what you're going to see from Jackie and Ken is an overview of generally what AMI is, the process we went through, and some of the cost information that we're seeing at this point as we move forward. Unless there are questions, I guess, Jackie, you're going to lead off for us?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Charlie, do you want to advance the slides for me, or do you want me to just share my screen and take control?
Eli, how would you?
What is,
Currently, this is Chairman Badger's screen.
Okay.
why don't we let her share her screen? so she can control it.
Okay, I'll make you a co-host, Jackie.
Okay, thank you. Might just be easier.
There you go. You should be a co-host.
Okay. Share. All right. And can you see it? Is it successful?
Yes,
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
good. All right, so our plan for our discussion today is just to give you a little background on AMI, although my understanding that you have been listening to other AMI presentations, so you probably have a more of a background than we maybe thought. So what we'd like to do is start out with giving you an overview of what AMI is, the components of an AMI system, and then what we did with VEPSA and our decision process. So overall, Advanced Metering Infrastructure is what AMI stands for, and it's a automated way of collecting meter data, but beyond just meter data for billing, it gives you an awful lot more information on meter events, other quantities that are collected at the meter besides kWh, like voltage, kVAR, especially for CNI customers. So you can collect a whole lot of different types of data to help you better run your electric system. So it can improve how you look at your losses, manage your outages. AMI can also be used for water. So you could start out with electric, you could add in water, you could start with both. You have that flexibility with AMI. AMI also applies to gas utilities as well. So AMI can satisfy every commodity. So data is collected through the meters and then sent via some kind of communication system back to the utility office for processing, billing, and analysis. So some of the things that you could do with AMI, it's good not only for utility operations, but also for customer service. On the operations side of things, you'll get outage notifications when an outage occurs. This is particularly useful for those one-time outages. The larger outages, you're going to know about those and manage those. But for those one or two customers that are out on a particular service line that you may not know about for quite a while, you'll be alerted to that type of outage to be able to respond to the customer faster. You won't have to make as many trips out to the field to do a billing verification check or a verifying that the meter is operational or working. Everything can be done remotely, including your meter reading. The goal is that you'll have fewer customer calls. It's safer for those people out in the field that have to make those trips to the customer sites. And you can really take a good look at what your losses are on your system by having such detailed data across your entire grid. Now, on the customer side of things, customers tend to like AMI because it gives them a lot more information about how they're using your product. You can offer them more and better rates. You can offer them more services, more programs. It can prevent customers from being surprised with super high bills. And it's just overall more convenient if a customer can log into a system, see what their usage is, and have some control over their usage over that monthly period so they don't get any surprises. So it has a lot of customer benefits. Some of the things that the customers may ask that you have to respond to all the time. Why did I get such a high bill? Well, an AMI system in conjunction with other data like weather data can tell the customer, well, usage was really high because last week was really cold and you turned on your heater and you happen to have supplemental electric heat. So that's why your bill is so high. It allows customers to maybe put together a budget to schedule when they want to get billed. And also gives them more information and insight into outages. So if the power is out, You can have a relationship with the customer where you're texting or somehow communicating with the customer when they're going to get their power back. And overall, you're just eliminating a lot of truck rolls. On the utility side of things, it's going to give you a lot more detailed data on understanding your customers' usage and their usage patterns for different rate classes. So you're going to be able to build time of use types of rates, maybe critical peak pricing rates, build rates that actually reflect how you need to purchase power, and make sure that the customers that are putting the demand on your system are actually paying their fair share of the purchase power that you need to get. And with that detailed amount of data, you'll be able to do that. If you've got solar, wind, other distributed generation on your system, with the AMI equipment, it's a lot easier to meter that without buying special equipment, especially for residential customers that are participating in those programs. Their AMI meter can record both delivered and received energy or net, depending on how your solar rates work. If there's any issues with quality of power delivered, like voltage fluctuations, you're going to be able to see those voltage alerts on the AMI system. So it's going to give you that level of granularity. So in addition to all the different kinds of usage quantities, you can get event and alarm quantities as well. So really the industry is moving to AMI and taking advantage of all of the data that you can get from AMI. Any questions before I move on to some of the technical components? Otherwise, when we look at an AMI system, I look at it as really kind of three major components. One is the meters, that's pretty obvious. And you can have electric, water, gas for those that have it. And a lot of local processing is done on those meters. Then you've got your network, where the meters communicate with each other and communicate back to the office or to the hosted software. So there's a couple different kinds of networks. There's the field area network, where the meters in a mesh structure may communicate with each other. And then there's the wide area network, which is going to consist of fiber or cellular connection that's actually going to get your data back to your office or to that wherever the end software is. And then the last component is the head-end software. We call it master station. It could be called head-end software, and meter data management. So there are multiple components here that take you from the data gathering aspect of the software all the way through the analysis and, of the data. And we'll get into each of these components. So the AMI electric meters really support two-way communication. So you can communicate, they can send messages out to the utility, and utility can send messages to the meter. At a minimum, you're going to gather hourly data, but you can also gather it in more frequent increments. If you're looking at a voltage analysis, you might want 5-minute data around your peak period. The meter is going to store the data. All of the meters today are solid state. You're going to be buying solid state meters. So you can see the picture that we have here, where it's just an assembled electronics product, right? It's kind of like a computer now on the side of your house, is basically what meters have become. It has a lot of computing and processing power in those meters. So it can do rate calculations in the meters. It can do some kind of load limiting if you want. It's got the disconnect or reconnect capability. And some meters, like the newer Itron meters, are also doing a lot more of local analysis and local processing and making decisions locally, like an edge computing technology. The meters will have some kind of a radio card in them, or communications card, which could be radio frequency, or power line technology could be used as well. So on the network side, this is where all your options kind of come into play. With your field area network, you've got a radio frequency network that can be a 900 megahertz network, which is a free open band network, and someone like an Eaton would operate on that band. Or you could have a private license frequency, which would be just used for your utility purposes. So there wouldn't be any conflicts with other free open 900 megahertz solutions out there. So radio frequency is one option for a network. Power line carrier is another one, and that's been around for long time. Vermont Electric Co-op uses that technology and has been using it very successfully. That requires a lot of equipment in your substation, but it can reach all the meters. It does have less capabilities than a radio frequency network would. And then lastly, there's cellular, which is like your cell phone. The meters have a cell card in it and it communicates out. On the wide area network side of things, you really have a cellular choice or a fiber choice. So same thing, cellular just operates on the cellular network that's available in your area. Or if you have any fiber access in your territory, you can connect those fiber points to the network collectors and deliver the data that way. Electric and water systems would share the same network. Different meters, but same network. Some of the common topologies for networks include an RF mesh where meters can talk to each other and they hop to each other until they get to that collector point. The other common technology is a star network where a collector point can talk to every meter that it's close to. So the meters don't hop and send their data to one another. The meters talk directly to a main collector. Those are really the two common approaches that the meter vendors have today. Some of the things that you need to think about, and we had to think long and hard at BEPSA about exactly, what kind of network would work best, how would network, we'd like to have network success, because that seems to be a pain point oftentimes in your systems. So you have to look at the geography of your territory. If you have a lot of mountains, you're going to have to go around those mountains. You can't go through the mountains. So that requires a lot more equipment. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at technology, that you don't want to have obstructions. You're going to have line of sight, whether it's from one meter to another on a house or a business, or if it's a meter to a collector point. It can't have anything in the way, or else it won't be successful. So just something to think about. And we had lots of discussions about this with BEPSA. The network collector device, just some examples of what they look like. They're basically boxes that will sit on your poles or sit on your street lights. They do require power. They often can come with battery backup. They're weatherproof. These are, this is the key to getting the data back from the meters to your utility. Now in the software, I'm calling it the head-end system here, and it can do a lot of things. Its primary role is to get the data off of the meters, get all of the information off the meters. So it's going to be the controller for interrogating the meters. It could be making a request every so many hours for data from the meter, and it's going to collect and then process all of that meter data. It's really the orchestrator of the entire system. And when you look at the software, you want to be able to see, how is all of my equipment performing? What's my network performance like? Are all the meters communicating? Do I have the data that I need to build customers today? And because it's a critical part for billing, it's going to go into your customer information system or a meter data management system. And so at VEPSA, we were looking for a meter data management system to go along with an AMI that would long-term store all the data that we're collecting and be the platform for all of the future analysis, for the demand response analysis, for the rate analysis, for the cost of service analysis that has to be done. So an MDM was an important component for VEPSA. So that's why I talked about a meter data management system, because when you think about, you're going to be getting billions of data points, because if you look at the number of meters you have, even if you collect hourly data every day for every meter, that's a lot of data. So you'd like a common database that can store all of the data, check it, clean it up, make sure that it's good data. It can also do some of your billing calculations if your billing system couldn't handle some of the more complex rates that you end up designing. But it absolutely has to integrate with your CIS. And it's actually that middle piece of software that makes the AMI system operation a lot easier to interface with your billing system. So just to give you a sense of how much data there is, right now you're used to taking in 1 read per month for all of your customers. Well, with AMI, not only are you going to get 1 read per day, but you're going to get 1 read per hour. In some cases, you might even be getting 15-minute data. So you're going to get 4 reads or 4 pieces of data per hour. And that's just if you're talking about kWh. Well, you're going to want kW, you're going to want voltage, you're going to want all these other quantities that these meters can collect. So the quantity of data that builds up rapidly, and there's a huge amount of data. So keeping that data in the secure database is really critical. Just kind of what I always like to tell utilities is no AMI system is perfect. It's always going to have some kind of problem. Sometimes you're going to have gaps in the data because it's not always going to arrive on time. You're going to have communication failures in your network. So that's why an MDM is super important, because in case those problems occur, you still want to be able to bill the customer with the best data that you have available at the time. So an MDM can help you do that. Okay, so any questions just kind of overall on AMI, or from maybe what you have learned from other vendors also? No?
I
No?
don't think anybody has anything yet.
Okay, so please just jump in if you do. So let me tell you about the process that we went through at VEPSA in our vendor selection process.
Jackie,
So, yes,
I just saw a question pop up in chat.
okay.
Someone was asking, I'm not sure if the chairman wants to recognize them or we should move on.
Well, I just saw the message from Alice, and I prefer that we ask questions at the end of the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. So with VEPSA, we actually went out with a request for information in July of 2019. We started a year before looking at each of the VEPSA members and the systems that were in place, their needs for AMI, and we did an assessment for every VEPSA member. And as we were kind of going down the path of looking at AMI for each of the members, we were reluctant to go right out with an RFP because there was a lot more that we wanted to learn about all of our options. So we went out with an RFI in July of 2019. I think we sent it to 11 or 12 vendors. We received 9 responses. From those responses, and after review of those responses, and our thoughts about their ability to meet our VEPSA requirements, we shortlisted 3 vendors: Aclara, Hometown Connections, which provides the Itron AMI product and the IP Keys meter data management solution, and Landis and Gear. Those were our top vendors. From the
Just
short,
while I'm here, I think we should be fully transparent. I mean, Eaton was one of the bidders that we looked at and chose not to move forward with, primarily related to their structure. Where we can get into the details if you feel a need to. But I wanted to be clear, since you are talking to them separately, they were a bidder and we chose not to move forward with them.
so we went out with an RFP just to those 3 vendors in December of 2019. We got the responses back in March, and we read and evaluated all of the responses and up until May of this past year. We had vendor demos, we did reference checks, we did multiple Q&A sessions, we did multiple reference checks again. And our evaluation team met in August and made a final decision for the board recommendation this past September. So some of the things that we looked at, though, as we put our requirements together, because we are a joint action agency, we wanted to make sure that the software was multi-tenant. We wanted to be able to have one single database, one combined license that all members could use and take advantage of, but yet separate all the data for each member so it could use on its own. There's something called a multi-tenant database where you can look at the data in aggregate, and that's something that VEPSA would do to help the utilities design rates, in design demand response programs, do cost of service analysis, put together their integrated resource plan. VEPSA would have access to all of that data, but every member would have access to use and operate with their own data. But we'd be paying for one single license. That was super important. We also wanted a hosted solution. We didn't want to have anything under anybody's desk at VEPSA or any of the members' desks. We were very concerned about security, making sure that it was a solution that could be in a legitimate data center with security, with disaster recovery capabilities, and fully protected.
Jackie, can I?
Sure.
Excuse me, Jackie. Ken Santamore. I am the manager of technology and security services at VEPSA. And I just wanted to make a couple points with the multi-tenant. Really important for us on a cost point, but also in a little bit, we'll be going over some security measures that the vendor, Aclara, has into their system, as well as the security measures that we're going to be following. So when you hear multi-tenant, there is still going to be a strong security presence with our solution. And as Jackie mentioned with the hosted solution, we really recognized what she was saying earlier regarding the 15-minute data for every customer on everybody's system, that being a small staff, we really needed some assistance with the back end functionality of the system. So that's where we're taking advantage of the hosted solution. So it can be in a modern data center, in this case, Microsoft Azure, which will take a lot of those back end functions off from our hands and put it into a professionally run modern data center. So that's a little bit of the reasoning behind those requests. Thank you, Jackie.
Now, we also were looking for an MDM, as I mentioned earlier. The vendor that we selected did not have to have their own MDM, but they needed to offer an MDM and show that they could interface and work with an MDM. So we were looking for the vendors to provide us a complete solution from the AMI system to the MDM system. Although they could be from 2 separate companies that work together. that would have been fine. And then on the meter and network side, we really wanted an AMI system that could support multiple manufacturers, giving VEPSA members a choice. We wanted multiple communications options because we weren't sure if, one size fits all, if an RF mesh would be good for the entire member, every member, or if other options should be considered. So if a vendor had multiple solutions, we were interested in hearing about those as well. If we could get members on a single network, if they could share collectors, share infrastructure, because some of the VEPSA members are neighbors and where they meet are in hard to reach areas. And if we could put equipment in there that could satisfy both members on those border areas, we were very interested in being very efficient in setting up a network that could allow our vendors to share the same system. And then a disconnect meter was absolutely a requirement. So we had to be able to remotely connect or disconnect the meter either for non-payment or as if a move in, move out situation. Other must-haves, we really needed to agree to a service level. So we wanted them to guarantee that the data would arrive, 99% every day. We knew that we wanted at some point in time, some kind of demand response, DSM capabilities within the AMI system. While we weren't going to jump in right in the beginning with that capability, we wanted to know that they had it. So it wasn't a showstopper if they didn't have it, but from a roadmap perspective, it was important to know that they could do these things as we progressed with the system. Same thing on the distribution automation smart grid side of things. We wanted to make sure that they had some path to these capabilities, although they didn't have to have them in order to be a successful bidder. So as I said, we sent it to the 3 vendors: Aclara, Hometown Connections, Landis & Gear. We received our proposals. Landis & Gear, unfortunately, was eliminated because they didn't bid an MDM. They just bid their AMI system. It was disappointing, but we made it very clear to them that we were looking for both. And they didn't provide a response on the MDM. So just to give you a flavor of what our technical proposal consisted of, we had sections on the electric meters, the water meters, the AMI network, the software, and then we had a section called other capabilities. That's where we were looking for things like the home area network and home communications, the distribution automation capabilities. We were looking for smart grid city types of capabilities. Now, while those are more longer term things that, our members may get involved with, we wanted to know that the vendor's roadmap could support where we wanted to go in the future. On the operations and support side, which is really super critical as you're executing a project, we wanted to make sure we understood how they approach the project. What kind of customer support will they provide us? What's their roadmap look like? What kind of QA do they do on their product? What kind of training do they offer? What is their release schedule? So all of those non-technical things that you have to live with every day, we asked quite a few questions about that as well. And then obviously the commercial relationship, pricing, their financial resources, their backing, any relationships they had, and their experience. We wanted to make sure we were getting involved with a vendor that had done this before with similar utilities. We spent some time doing some scoring on the proposal. So we had an evaluation team. Each VEPSA member provided at least one person who who read the proposal on behalf of their member utility. And we also had a lot of VEPSA people, range like from Ken Nolan and Ken Centimore from an IT and security perspective to our rates person to the customer service types of people. So we had all range of VEPSA staff members also scoring the proposals. And we did a legitimate scoring where every single question had to be read and scored. I think they absolutely hated me for it, but it was a very good and thorough process that it allowed us to vet every vendor in a lot of detail. So we had worksheets that they had to respond to whether the vendor complied and how they responded to their questions. So just overall, this is kind of, what the end result was. We went through this whole scoring process where we scored each section. We know which vendor was strongest on technical. We know which vendor was strongest on meters. So that way, as we go into talking with the vendor further, we know what their weaknesses and strengths are, at least perceived by us in our reading. But overall, the overall score, really every single reviewer, and you can see Aclara is the blue bar in the graph, every single reviewer thought Aclara had the best proposal that we read. So that gave us a lot of comfort in moving forward with Aclara. But we didn't stop there. The scores weren't just good enough. So just to give you a little summary of Aclara, it's basically, they offer meters. They were formerly they were formerly provided GE meters. Aclara has since bought GE and now provide all electric meters that were formerly the GE meters. They offer multiple types of communications technologies. TWACS, you may have heard of that, which is Power Line Carrier System, has been around for, 20 years, 30 years, long time. It was probably one of the first tried and true AMI systems on the market, and it still works. They've enhanced it somewhat, but it's still there and available, and they're still selling it. They have an RF star system that satisfies electric, gas, and water, and they offer a cellular solution as well. So they gave us a lot of flexibility on the different types of communication that we could have. So the two technology options that we kind of focused on, we were initially focused on just the RF, which is a private licensed RF point to multi-point or a star kind of system. But some of our members thought that their territory might be better suited to Power Line Carrier and wanted to explore the option of going with Power Line Carrier. So we're in the process of asking Aclara to give us more information and some pricing on Power Line Carrier for some of the members. So some of them will make a final decision at that point. As I said, the meters are formerly the GE meters, so people have had very good experience with them. And then the Aclara One head-end solution actually includes not only the head-end system, but a meter data management system, all in one piece of software, all together, so you don't have to bounce between multiple products or integrate across a head-end system and a meter data management system. Your integration occurs from meter data management to your billing system. So it eliminates one potential integration point of failure. So we like that also. And Aclara offered a true multi-tenant system. So we could put everyone's data together in a single database, and every utility could then have access to just their own data. So just another shot or explanation of what they have. Aclara has a very large rural electric cooperative base of customers, which are much more similar to the VEPSA members than some of the other AMI competitors. So some of the characteristics that we liked about Aclara is the network design. They did a very thorough network design for us. So we have felt pretty confident. We knew how much equipment we'd need, where it would be placed. They did give us the flexibility to go either RF or PLC. And as I said, that while PLC is not as functional as an RF system, some of the members thought that that would actually work much better in their territory. And it is a private license frequency. It's a pretty low cost to get that frequency license, but when you are involved with when you use a private frequency, it's at a lower bandwidth, which gives you a longer range and better penetration through obstacles. So we also thought that would be a better choice for the VEPSA members. On the software side, again, it was true multi-tenant. On the operations side of it, each member could operate their own system, or it could be jointly monitored and operated by VEPSA. It had an cleaning up of the data, the validation, estimation, and editing capability was there in the product. It had a lot of visualization of the data on maps. We liked the way that it looked, the ability to create reports, generate your own reports. It did have a base GIS system as part of it. We liked the fact that you could get data in and out of the system pretty easily. And it did have a transformer or voltage analysis product, though that would have been an add-on product, but it did have it. So as just to kind of give you a flavor for some of the comments that our reviewers had about Aclara, it's just overall, whenever they've worked with Aclara, whether it was at Vermont Electric Co-op or with using GE meters, overall, their experience was pretty positive. They thought Aclara was a good company to work with. As I said, they liked the private license, giving it better range and the penetration, a better penetration through foliage, which we know foliage will come. They did offer the power line choice, even though we may not take advantage of it, it's still there, which was a nice choice. Their GE meters have always been of high quality and considered, really good meters in the market. The software, we like the fact that software combined the head-end functionality and the meter data management functionality under one system, that it was true multi-tenant. I can't repeat that enough because that was like the premier capability that we were looking for in the system. And then they had the opportunity to add on to the programs. The negatives about Aclara were that at this point in time, you can't buy any other meter manufacturer besides the Aclara meter to work on the network at this time. They're working on it, but they don't have that. And that to satisfy all of the VEPSA members, we would need 171 pieces of network equipment out in the field, which is kind of on the high side. We'll see what that comes back. They're revising that for us. So in a couple of weeks, we'll get a revision and we'll see what that number looks like.
Jackie, can I make a quick point regarding some of these points?
Yep.
Earlier, we did say that we wanted the opportunity to use multiple vendors' meters. However, it turns out that with Aclara, their multi-tenant capabilities, as well as the power line carrier option, as Jackie said, a couple of our members are interested in, that really was the driving force, especially given the fact that most of our people really like the GE metering products and feel that it's a quality meter. So that requirement kind of fell aside as we move forward with this process.
And you probably all know that the GE meters are manufactured in New Hampshire. So, So we also did reference checks. We did a number of reference checks. And just some of the overall conclusions that we were able to address with the contacts or the references. Really, nobody had to hire more people to manage the system day to day. They were able to operate the system by repurposing some of the people that had, meter reading jobs or billing verification jobs. And so they didn't have to bring in any new people. It wasn't a strain on their utility at all. Aclara tends to give a named service support person as the primary contact. So they had a lot of good contact and support from Aclara. So that meant a lot. They didn't have any issues and delays or equipment delivery. When Aclara said they were going to deliver it, they delivered it on schedule. They did say that some of the collectors that were had solar power rather than relying on electricity were not a good option. So that was a good tip for us to know as we move forward in implementation. They said the two-way communication is very responsive. They like the fact that it could read the electric and water meters easily. One of our members has the SEDC billing system. It was very easy to interface with that. And that we talked with a rural electric management agency using the multi-tenant capabilities, that exactly what we were looking for. And they were 4 electric co-ops and 1 REM. And so there were actually 5, and they were using it exactly how we intend to use the system at VEPSA. So we did validate that others were using it exactly the way that we wanted to. And then just from a project responsibility perspective, what does the vendor do for you, and what do you have to do yourself? So, you've got to decide what you want the data, what you want what data you want to collect on the meters. And you also, one of the things, you could hire an installation company or a firm to do that for you. We were looking at the VEPSA members actually doing the meter installations themselves. Everything else pretty much Aclara is going to help out with. Some of the risks with Aclara, we thought their meter prices were high, so we're in the process of negotiating lower prices. We want to make sure that we understand the meter warranty, and that we can warranty over the life of the system. There's no alternative to the GE meters, but as Ken said, that became a lower priority because the other priorities were so much more important. The quantity of network equipment, we're also renegotiating that. They're redoing a network design for us. And actually we submitted the Ashland data with the data, the updated VEPSA member data. So we will get information back on Ashland as well from Aclara. The private RF license, we were concerned that the network overall would not perform as designed, but we feel that we've mitigated that by using the private RF license, which has the longer range. We're concerned that with all projects, Aclara will put in a lot of change orders. Oh, I didn't really agree to that. But, it's all about making sure that we get a very good, solid statement of work and negotiate. So we have a team of us at VEPSA that include members that have expertise in finance, expertise in the field equipment, has project implementation experience with AMI. So we've constructed a team, a VEPSA team, to actually do the negotiations with Aclara to make sure that we can mitigate all of these risks. So what we did was we took the prices that Aclara gave us in their initial proposal, And based on the number of meters that we knew you had in Ashland, we did a ballpark. So I think that's probably the natural question that you'll ask is, okay, so if we got involved with VEPSA, what ballpark? What can you tell us for a ballpark amount? So we took the number of meters. We assumed that you weren't going to do anything with water at this point. We looked for one of the VEPSA members whose geography was similar to Ashland and estimated the amount of network equipment that we would need, and then software and in-field software. And so, just kind of ballparking it at first, we came up with $469,000 as an initial cost. And then there's an annual cost for the software hosting, for cell costs if we have to pay, for that last network hop. That's all, assuming that it was all cellular. And overall, it comes out to be about $17,000 a year after that initial $469,000.
Two points on this slide before you go on, Jackie. One of the, you can call it a plus or a minus, depending on your perspective of working through VEPSA as a joint action agency, is that we've set this up as a project, and the annual costs, which are really software mostly related, software and communications. What we're envisioning is those costs will be paid by VEPSA and then allocated out to all the participants. So to the extent there is savings there, those would flow through. It's an allocation of actual costs, not really anything added to that.
Mm-hmm.
And on the upfront cost, we've got a couple of members who have looked at that initial outlay and decided they really don't have the funding capability to pay that cost up front. So we're evaluating right now whether we can do some sort of financial arrangement where we front the money and then bill it into the monthly charges that we're passing through. So I can't sit here today and tell you what that exactly looks like, but that is something we're considering for other members, and I think it'd be open to Ashland as well if you were interested in financing that rather than paying the amount up front. Something that I'm not sure some meter vendors offer that, but it's something we have to deal with all the time.
And the price quantities are based on the total VEPSA membership quantities. So actually, Aclara is pricing it based on selling 35,000 meters, not 1,000 meters. So you fall into a different range of meter pricing because we're buying a larger quantity, or they're considering it a larger quantity of meters. So there's an advantage there as well.
And Jackie, does that 9S, are those commercial meters?
They are. Yes. And so I basically,
Those are really high so everyone knows.
yeah, that's really high. And we told them that.
Yeah.
We've
Go ahead.
told them that. So we expect those to come way down.
Mhm.
And so I just ballparked it, Charlie, based on some of the numbers that you provided, how many 2S's you would need. And I basically just separated out into 9S and 16S, although you may have some different form factors there, but just for simplicity, I kind of lumped them all in. They're two categories.
I just wanted to ease the concern of the viewers that might have saw the
Yeah.
459 number.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we don't have 200 of commercials at 78,000 or the 60NS at 61. So that should bring that down for you a little bit.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
ballpark.
you gave a range, so I used the high end of the range.
Yeah, and just for more color on the Aclara proposal, I mean, they were the cheapest overall cost for across the membership when we did this analysis for all the members. They got there because their software costs because they were selling us one license that everybody could access, the software side of their proposal was extremely low compared to others. The meter side was higher than other vendors, at least on a first pass. So in our negotiation, we've kind of separated those and said, we like the software costs, we want to work with that, but you really need to come down and sharpen the pencil on the meter side. So we're expecting some better pricing and more competitive with what the other vendors are offering.
So just next steps, we're waiting, as Ken said, for a revised price quote from Aclara. And we did include Ashland in that. So we did give them your meter quantities that you provided us. We're still talking to different members about what their final solution is going to be, what network choice they want to make. We're continuing to gather data on the network inventory for the final design. And then we're going to, execute a contract, develop an implementation schedule, and then develop that final project structure. What role is VEPSA going to play? What role are the members going to play? I think, it's probably going to be some kind of mixture. Some members are going to want VEPSA to do more. Some members are going to want to actually get in there and use the system themselves. So there'll be all, I think, ranges of support and responsibilities that, each member will want to assume. So we're being very flexible with that as well. So I think now it's time for questions. That's all I have.
First, does the select board have any questions?
I do, Eli. You have a lot of things pending, next steps and so forth. When would you anticipate things being finalized so that if we were to make a decision, when could this all be implemented?
We're expecting Aclara by the end of December, probably in the next week or so, to give us an update on pricing. We fully expect that some of the members that want to go first will start in 2021.
Yeah, our overall hope here is to get a contract in place in the next couple of months with Aclara and put us in a position to start really deployment in the spring with some of the folks that are completely ready to go. We have a couple of members that are just chomping at the bit. They've made the decision and they're waiting for us to get the pieces in place. So we'd like to move with them early in the spring if we can. And we have other members who have said, we're not convinced yet. So we're trying to lay this out. We expect deployment to happen over the next 2 to 3 years, going quickly with those who can and the stragglers toward the end.
Okay, Alice, you had a question?
Yeah, this may not be the time for that, but I did have questions about smart meters in general and health and privacy concerns. That might be another discussion.
Mm-hmm.
That would be I would think that will be another discussion.
Okay.
The one thing I would say is Vermont, most of the Vermont utilities went forward with this. His technology back in 2009, and I'm not sure how much you're aware of the Vermont regulatory environment, but we had a lengthy review of health and privacy here, and anything we has to meet the Vermont standard. So at the appropriate time, we are really prepared to talk in depth about that.
And also on a related subject to not so much privacy, but security of the data, there were 2 documents in the package that we sent over that addresses the encryption that's used both on the field area network as well as the wide area network and the virtual private network technology that we are planning to utilize to get all the data back to the head-end system. So there's some information there regarding a similar subject in terms of security.
Okay, thank you. I know a lot of times there's an opt-out feature too, or people are allowed to opt out. So that's just another thing going forward for Ashland to talk about. Thank you.
Are there any other questions revolving around the meter? Charlie, you have any other statement you want to make about?
Sure. Jackie, earlier you said you have to have a line of sight. You can't obstruct the meters. We do have some hills in Ashland. How do you handle that?
So equipment ends up going around the hill, right? Or you put something on top of the hill and it can communicate, down to the meters that are at the bottom of the hill. So they'll take the vendors are expert at doing propagation studies and determining how much equipment you need to make sure that you don't run into those types of problems. And you might need more equipment if you have to go kind of around the base or, go to the top of the mountain or something. So it will depend. The vendors will do a really good job at that. What you want them to do is take all of your address data and do something called a propagation study and tell you where they think every piece of equipment needs to go.
That's part of the analysis they're doing right now. The second round, we had them do one round for VEPSA. That's how we got to the 171 collector points in Jackie's presentation. They're refining that now, and in that second round, we've given them the Ashland data. So we should get a first cut at where they think the equipment needs to go in your territory. But there's two aspects to it. One is around the hillside and dealing with the mountains, and that's typically addressed by more equipment. And then the foliage issue, which they're going to run a propagation study with and without foliage, so they kind of do it. And that's where the license frequency actually plays a big role in dealing with that.
So do you think there'd be meters that we would have to actually still go out and hand read?
It depends on what they find in the propagation study. It usually is a trade-off between equipment and manpower.
Mhm.
So if you're very compact, I did a project like this in Burlington, city of Burlington here in Vermont, very compact, 4 square miles.
Mhm.
And they easily could put in collector points and not have to read anything manually.
Hmm.
If you've got 1 or 2 customers at the far end of a line,
Mhm.
by themselves, then it may become too expensive to send, put equipment in to reach them. And
Yeah.
in that case, it might be worth thinking about doing a manual read, but it really depends on your individual topology as to what you end up with.
Another thing that apologies in advance if I missed this, but we have some really old meters that we have concerns about. I mean, I've got told you last week we might have meters that are as old as 40 years old that are not accurate. How accurate are these meters?
Well, I mean, they're all solid state meters now. So you won't have the wear and tear and slowing down like you do on your old mechanical meters. And they're all tested for accuracy before they come to the field. The one thing you're going to have to think about and be concerned about is the shock of the customer if they are now measured with the new, more accurate meter versus their older, slower meter that missed some of the usage. Their bills could go up quite a bit. They'd be perfectly legitimate because the meter is registering more accurately, but it's something that you're going to have to think about as you implement. You're not going to want to implement during a time period like your peak period, for example, and have a double hit on the customer for, more usage because the meter's recording more and, the colder temperatures, so they're using more. So You just have to be careful and be conscious of that when you start your implementation.
I think that the normal accuracy though, Jackie, is plus or minus 2% as I
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the service agreement. So when we're entering the contract with the
Mhm.
meter vendor, that's something you put in there typically. Warranty on the accuracy.
One of the other things that we ran into that I'm not sure how widely it's going to affect people, but I know one of the municipals had some older A-base meters, and those are no longer supported. So depending on the class and form of the meter, if they're that much older, then there could be some issues like that. But I don't really know what the final parameters are. But it would be important to know what you have out in the field moving forward, and we're really working on getting that information now for the municipals in Vermont.
Yeah, in that case, you may have some socket upgrades that have to occur as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we believe it's going to be very minor, but we did notice that there was one that Aclara brought to our attention recently.
So folks, we have automatic reads on our water meters already. Is the technology in the Aclara system capable of using the meters that we already have, or are we going to have to purchase new meters for the water department if we choose to?
Typically on the water side, the radio is an add-on component to the meter. So you would exchange out the radio component only. You wouldn't have to change the meter. Because the communication would have to be compatible with the frequency of the Aclara communications. So you'd need to change out that radio that's attached to your meter.
Any idea of approximate cost per meter?
Yeah, that's exactly what we asked Aclara to cost out for us. And they gave us a price about $90 per meter. But that's, again, an area where we're negotiating because we've seen it as low as 70. So somewhere between 70 and 90, it would cost just the component only. And then there would be the labor to do the replacement.
Thank you.
And that's one of those cases when you're looking at the project, it may be most economical for you to just keep doing the drive-by read or use that technology and convert over water meters to the Aclara system as you replace them or as you go through a conversion program rather than trying to do everything at once. We have about half of the VEPSA members are looking at the water electric combined. And we've got the same problem. We got some members have just replaced meters. Some of them have got the drive-by. And so part of our evaluation as to how we deploy the technology is really most everybody wants to go over to electric AMI pretty quickly. They're all thinking about the water and when's the best time to do that? When have you depreciated your investment in the water side and make it worthwhile to convert over?
Ken, when do you need a decision by Ashland?
From our side, there's not really a time crunch here. I think it's more driven by what you want to accomplish. I think the benefit to thinking about us is we're joint action agency. We're trying to do what's best for the utility. I think we're going to be deploying this technology regardless because at least half of the members want to do it. All of them are interested in some manner. And we're designing the system so that we can add additional utilities on after the fact.
Okay.
So you shouldn't feel any pressure from us. We're trying to set it up and get pricing for you so you have a much more accurate idea of what it would look like. You know, we like working with Ashland, as you know, Charlie. We do a lot of work together already. If this makes sense for both parties, then it's something we'd be interested in adding on. But as far as timing, I think it's really whenever you're comfortable making a decision to move forward. We'll give you as much information as we can, and then wait to hear what you feel the timing is best for you.
Yeah, thanks.
There's a pregnant pause here. Does that mean we're done?
Unless you have other questions, I think we're good on our side. Appreciate the time tonight. I know you probably got a very heavy agenda, and this took quite a while. So
Yeah.
thanks for the time.
Thank you.
If we can do anything else, provide other information, just let us know. As Jackie said, once we get the pricing from Aclara, we'll be sending that over and give you a much better idea of what the numbers look like.
We're sure that Mr. Smith will be in contact with you.
Yeah, well, our guys are reading the meters this week, and I've asked them to get a more of a defined read as to how many. Before it was just an estimate, but this time, if we want to move forward, you know, I told them we need to make sure we know how many we really need.
Right. Good. Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Nice
night.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
There was a deep sigh. Moving on.
Oh.
Yes, Kathleen?
No, that I was the deep side. There a lot of information to absorb. Yes, we're severely behind in the times.
Okay. Any other board comment before we move on? Scribner trustees and trustees of the trust fund, the Emma Scribner Trust Agreement. Who would like to speak first?
I have a
Badger.
statement. Okay. This will probably take care of an intro for both groups. Over the last several months, the Scribner trustees and the library trustees have held very productive separate and joint discussions regarding the Scribner Trust, including building needs, financial needs, and condition of the trust itself. The two sets of trustees each developed a statement proposing changes in the structure of the trust and the responsibilities of the trustees. On October 19th, the Scribner trustees and the library trustees presented their recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for the most appropriate and effective means for the ongoing care of the building and grounds. The proposals included the dissolution of the Scribner trustees body, the town trustees to be responsible for the management of any relevant trust funds, and the library trustees to be responsible for expenditures from the trust to care for the building and grounds. On October 19th, the Board of Selectmen voted to send the trustees' proposals to dissolve the Scribner Trust to Town Council. The document being presented tonight is titled State of New Hampshire in Re the M.H. Scribner Trust Non-Judicial Settlement Agreement pursuant to RSA 562-B:1-111, which was prepared by Walter Mitchell, the Ashland Town Attorney, in consultation with the New Hampshire Director of Charitable Trusts. The document is included in tonight's BOS meeting packet, which is posted also on the town website. In summary, the key elements of the agreement are dissolution of the M.H. Scribner Trust and the Scribner Board of Trustees, transfer of the Scribner Trust into a new charitable trust to be known as the Scribner Building and Park Trust, and to be used exclusively for the care and maintenance of the building and grounds. Both principal and income of the trust may be used for the purpose of the trust. The trust will be held in the custody of and under the management of the trustees of trust funds as governed by the laws of New Hampshire, and decisions on the expenditures of the trust monies for the stated purpose will be made by the library trustees. On November 24th, at their duly noticed meeting, the library trustees unanimously approved the non-judicial settlement agreement. And on November 30th, at their duly noticed meeting, the Scribner trustees unanimously approved the non-judicial settlement agreement. The agreement will then require signatures of the Board of Selectmen, the Scribner trustees, the library trustees, and the New Hampshire Director of Charitable Trusts. In addition, the creation of the new Scribner Building and Park Trust will be the subject of a warrant article on the March 2021 ballot. So tonight, we, the Scribner trustees and the library trustees, are requesting that the Ashland Board of Selectmen will also grant their approval of the non-judicial settlement agreement.
I'll make a motion to that, to accept the non-judicial settlement agreement pursuant to RSA 564-B:1-111.
I will second that.
Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call roll call vote. Mr. Silly,
Aye.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Motion carries.
I'd like to thank both entities for working together. This went quite smooth. It was done in a very short amount of time. And it is something to look forward, moving forward to the future.
And at this time, I'd like to thank the Scribner trustees and the town trustees for their reports. I thought that the information given was very well put, and I appreciated it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And now we need the three public bodies to sign the original
We need
agreement.
to- Yes, we have to come in and sign.
And so that will be available at the town hall at
Yep.
the front desk for us to sign? Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it. I've got a little bin that I can just leave it so everyone can sign right on.
Great. Thank
Um,
you.
Okay,
Just ask and it'll be right there.
Should we come into your office or should we do it at the counter?
However you feel comfortable.
And
If I'm not, you go ahead.
Is the town hall open this week from 8 to 4?
Yes.
Every day?
except, well, the town hall itself is open. The town clerk has had her hours posted.
Do we need the town clerk there, though, to sign this document?
No.
Okay,
No.
so
Okay.
time between 8 and 4 when
Okay.
the office is open.
No signature requirement for the town clerk at this time.
No, I don't see any. No.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, I can send out an email to staff to let them know if I'm not
That'd be
here or the
Yeah.
clerk's not there, so that no one's caught off guard, that they know why the trustees are coming.
Great, thank you.
The update on Plymouth Street University quality and Charlie.
Yeah, there were some concerns that came forward to the selectmen by a few of their constituents about Plymouth State University and the ongoings in the community since Plymouth State last visited us. So I reached out to them, Mr.
Collingwood.
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 Sorry, Collinwood. And he told me that the students quarantine at the inn left on November 23rd, and they'll not return until after January 4th.
So currently, there are no PSU students at the Comfort Inn.
Yes, that's correct. Did you want to add anything? No. Perhaps after the new year, we ask PSU what's the next steps? What's the plan after January 4th?
I think that's a good idea.
Or I can certainly follow up with them.
Good. Charlie, is there any old business?
I don't have any.
Board members, any old business?
No? None?
Moving on, I'd like to take the CRF property tax map expenditure first.
This is just another request like we had a couple weeks ago to expend from the capital reserve fund. We received another invoice last week from CA Technologies that we intend on paying with AP, and this is just to get it in the record so we can request the funds back from the trustees of the trust funds.
You need a motion to expend those funds? I'll make that motion, Charlie.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
I have a question as a trustee of the trust funds. When do you need that check written?
Amanda, probably we're not pressing for it
Do you need it written in 2020?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't think so.
I'm just wondering what our time, obviously people are not traveling as they normally do. So, you know, the ability to get two of us to the town hall and sign a check's pretty good. But I just need to know when you need it, just so we can have it there for you.
Yeah. The only thing is I just don't want you guys, I don't want to give you guys a runaround back and forth. And what I mean by that is we have a few more in the works.
Okay.
We previously are waiting to pay the bills. For example, we have to pay you guys next week for the appropriations in March.
Okay.
We have one reimbursement for the police vehicle, and there's a few for road improvements that we haven't received the invoices yet. So my thought was I'll just try to consolidate all those at once and then catch up with you and the
That would
trust.
be great. Ideally, is we're getting the trusts of Ashland in some order, and there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done on the other 9. Ideally, we trustees would like to meet quarterly and sign checks so that you know that we would be something like a March and a June and a what will be the next September and December that we would be there. We set our next official meeting, you know, after the town elections in March. But that doesn't mean that we cannot come in and sign some checks in between then. This is the ideal calendar that we're working toward having in a, you know, maybe another year or two as we get things settled a little better. But so if it could wait until next year, that would be great, and you could bundle it with as many as possible.
Charlie, there was a message in the chat room that said that would be ideal, but we can book a receivable from Catherine Davis.
The finance officer.
Yeah.
So just let us what you
Yeah.
Okay. We still have a motion on the floor. Roll call vote. Alan Stilley,
Hit it 3 more times. Aye.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Motion carries. Next up is the 4th of July committee. Just a little bit to catch us up, the BOS decided at the November 13th, 2019 meeting that the 4th of July committee, an event committee, would be better suited to be independent of the town's direct oversight. It was also noted that the 4th of July committee could remain as a town committee for the year 2020. The BOS also recommended that the 4th of July committee establish itself as a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The result would be a private group that could raise money, handle their own finances, have a governing body consisting of people from both inside and outside of town, etc. The 4th of July committee would still need to comply with the town's requirements for insurance, safety, vendor permits, and licenses. Currently, 3 of the 4 members have expired terms. The fourth member's term will expire on the 18th. So last year, we gave them a year. And now it's time to dissolve the committee, if that is your desire.
I don't understand why we need to go over this. We've made a decision in the past. Nothing that I know of has come up to change our opinion on this. The reasons for dissolving it as a town committee still stand. So I think we should move forward with our decision of a year ago.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? Hearing none. The 4th of July committee is no longer a town committee.
Do we want to do this by a roll call vote?
Well, we decided, we voted on it last year, and this, would you like to do it by roll call,
I
Kathleen?
would make that suggestion, seeing 2 of us weren't there last year.
Okay,
In that case, we need some kind of a motion.
I will accept a motion to dissolve the 4th of July committee.
I'll make that motion.
It is moved.
I'll
Do I hear
second
a second?
I'll second.
Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none. Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Nay,
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Moving on.
Oh, wait, I have one more vote of the board. I almost forgot.
You do.
The police chief is here and he is asking if we can encumber $2,500 from his line for grants next year. Remember, this was a couple, I think you and Steve Heath were talking about hiring a grant writer. I think that's what we already used 750. So it'd be 750 out of the 2,500. Yeah, this was as of November, so you've already processed an invoice. That'd be 1,750. The chief is requesting that we encumber 1,750 from line number, let's see, 01421040. I'm just looking for a motion.
You were frozen on my screen. What is this for?
Oh, sorry. That makes sense. So this is for matching grants. I don't know if you remember a couple months ago, Chief Heath asked us about moving forward with a contract with a vendor to help us write grants next year.
I thought we didn't, I didn't think we supported that. I thought we removed that from the budget line.
We did, but this is a request to encumber funds for next year.
We didn't have it in the budget, but I think we always support the application for grants. And if there's funding in the account, in the line, then I think we should encumber the money so that, is there a specific grant that the chief is looking at?
Yeah.
Just what the company is gonna.
It's just what, well, the company's gonna have, the money in that line will help pay for it next year.
For what?
Finding grants and writing the grants. We did reduce the line, but we left $1 with the thought that if they were to receive one, then we will expend from that line.
Okay.
So you're asking us to encumber something that hasn't happened?
No, it has happened. The encumbrance is to pay for the rest of the agreement next year.
Ms. Davis, do you have a question? Apparently not. Okay. What's the motion that you want?
To encumber 1750, line item 01420-40-800.
I'll
I
accept
still
the
don't
motion
understand
for
what
that.
we're in.
We're getting some bad feedback.
Yeah. I've heard how, I've only heard a portion of what you said, Charlie. I still
Okay.
don't know what this is for.
You want to give it a go?
Well, if it's a problem with the screen freezing, I don't know that I'm gonna be able to be much better. So for 2021, there's only, we've left the grant line with $1 in it because we haven't been able to use, we haven't been able to find or use any grants so far in the last, as long as I've been a member of the Ashland Police Department. So it was brought down to $1 just to keep that line open. Steve Heath and I had entered an agreement at his request for a company that helps us find and write grants. We just kind of entered this within the last couple of months. And so we have money left in the grant line in 2020, but we don't have any for 2021. So if I can encumber the 1750 that we have remaining for this year to use for next year, we'll be in a much better position should we be able to find grants. This company, I guess, is like 90-something% getting grants. So that's what we're looking to do, is encumber the 1750 for the matching grants line to use for next year.
That's very helpful, Chief. And in that case, even though there's no
Yes.
specific, you have a company that's going to help you look for these grants, which I wholeheartedly support. So I would like to make a motion to encumber these funds.
I'll second that.
I'll say,
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll wait for everybody to catch up. Okay. Hearing no more discussion, roll call vote. Kathleen DeWolf,
aye.
Alan Silly,
Aye.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
There you go.
Now,
Yeah. Sorry about that. My, the computer is, the internet here is it literally says unstable, so.
we figure you're near it, so unstable is
Coming.
quite appropriate.
It's coming.
You know, we can't even read lips when you're frozen on the screen, so.
Okay, moving on. It looks like we have a non-public.
Before, can we talk about select board items?
Sure.
Yeah.
More select board items.
I would like to express my concern that we are not taking COVID as seriously as we should in this town. We have had a number of things happen in the past few weeks, specifically Parks and Rec having to close their after-school program, Squam Lakes Plumbing having to shut down because of positive COVID cases. We need to set an example for this town. I'm concerned that I see our town manager and our police chief in the same room without wearing masks. We need to set a better example. I am very adamant that we should not have any in-person meetings for the duration, given the seriousness of this pandemic. It is not a hoax. It is not something we can take lightly. So that's just my opinion. I think that we should express our concern over the next few months until such time as a vaccine is ready for us.
I agree with Fred about meeting in person. I think we should go back to our original thought that we do not have any in-person meetings until further notice. What is the status of the after-school program? I believe there's only about 8 school days left before Christmas vacation. Do we need to make some decision about that? So the parents whose kids are in that program can make choices. And the way things are going, doesn't look like by January 1st, things are going to change very much.
And we need to very seriously start thinking about our deliberative session. It is in the beginning of
Yes.
February. This is not going to be over. We're going to have a huge logistical nightmare if we don't start planning now. I suggest we
Hopefully
think
we'll get
about it
some
and spend some
dates.
serious time discussing.
Mr. Smith was talking earlier today about the municipal associations guidelines for, and at least he's given out a link to that site. I think we should read that, and for our deliberative session. It's very strange.
I would
hearing your-
suggest we put that on our next agenda to begin
That would be
talking
good.
about it.
Now, as far as holding our boards and commissions holding in-person meetings, the only board that I know of, the only committee that I know of that wants to continue is the Budget Committee. They have the highest percentage of people who do not want to meet through Zoom.
They're also,
we-
most of the members are in the high-risk group too.
And what they want
we
is
have-
not as important as what we think is the right thing to do. They're meeting in town buildings, town offices. They don't get to decide. We do. we want our townspeople to be safe. And I agree with Kathleen, a lot of them in the high risk category, as are most of us on the select board. We, just because they want it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I want to meet with my grandchildren. I can't.
So, if a request was made, to the board, which I don't know if it was, maybe we should be proactive and say, into further notice, there will be no in-person meetings of any board, committees, or commissions into further notice. And to contact the town manager for your Zoom information. Can we do this by consensus, or do we need to have a roll call?
I've got a couple of questions. Charlie, has the Booster Club been shut down?
Eli, I don't know where that feedback. The only David, can you mute yours?
Okay. Am I muted?
No.
Then I was muted.
I guess sorry, Eli, I tried to find where the feedback was coming from.
David's muted.
Uh,
Walter, Catherine is muted. Craig is muted. I think we're all muted except for me and you right now, Charlie.
all right, I'll go. The Booster Club was closed. What happened was that we had an employee who was in close contact. In order to be safe for our employees and the kids that go to the program, we closed it down until the person could get a test. So expectations are that, assuming things come back negative in the next couple of days, the program could possibly get back up and running. As for the budget committee, they have already had their meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I think that would put things in a quite an awkward position if we went ahead and canceled that the night before.
If we are going to shut down in-person meetings in any of the town buildings, we need to shut down the Booster Club, because essentially having kids there is a meeting.
I mean, I think you could just not allow public access.
I do, after every meeting, before every meeting, how do we clean these areas?
Well, I go before the meeting and I wipe it down. I still have masks there, and I wipe down all the chairs and all in the table.
And are they wearing masks during the meeting?
Yes.
Why aren't you wearing a mask?
At that meeting, well, we feel as if we're 6 feet apart.
The distance isn't the only thing that matters, Charlie. You're in a closed space, and guidance will say that 6 feet is important, but so is masking. That's what I'm just saying. You guys should be wearing masks even though you're 6 feet apart.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the question, So due to the COVID-19 resurgence, do you want this thing to read something like, due to the COVID-19 resurgence, the BOS is suspending the use of any town buildings for in-person meetings of boards and committees? Is that what you want to say?
She's concerned, so. Better? Is that better?
Thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate that. Charlie, I care about your health and well-being. I care about Chief Owick's health and well-being. That's why I want you to wear a mask. You're not necessarily safe in a closed space.
I agree with Eli's statement.
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Due to the COVID-19 resurgence, the BOS is suspending the use of any town buildings for in-person meetings of boards and committees. Do we feel that in addition, that we should suspend the afternoon school, the after-school program at the same time?
I suspect we need more feedback from Parks and Rec, given what Charlie has told us. I'm not sure what the status is. I know they'd shut it down for a while. I need to know the current status. I think right now we just need to focus on another meeting.
I agree
Okay.
with Fran. According to the school calendar, there's school Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. In service for teachers only on next Monday, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And Christmas vacation starts on December 21st. So there's not that many calendar days left for the after-school program, but I think we have to be kept completely abreast of what's going on in case we have to make a decision before the kids come back after Christmas vacation.
Okay.
So I would vote just on the first part of Mr. Badger's statement tonight. Unless
So-
any other board member has anything to say.
Alan, you have anything?
I do. I think that some kind of a time frame has to be put into this. It can't be indefinite.
The time frame will reveal
Since-
itself as we get through these next weeks, months. This virus is spreading rapidly. We are not rounding any turn. We are in an upswing, and I agree, it can't go on indefinitely, but we monitor it on a weekly, daily, monthly basis, and we make our decisions appropriate.
We have a technology to continue with our meetings. Isn't that right, Hermione?
Okay. So due to the COVID-19 resurgence, the BOS is suspending the use of any town buildings for in-person meetings of boards and committees. So I'll accept a motion to suspend in-person meetings of boards and committees in town buildings.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, Kathleen DeWolf,
Aye.
Alan Silly,
Nay,
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Eli Badger says aye. So moved.
Well, Naomi, I have to ask Naomi a question about that. The budget committee has a meeting tomorrow that they've already posted for.
Well, don't you have the Zoom information?
I do, but those folks,
So they Zoom it.
they posted with 24-hour notice and plan on meeting there. So, I mean, what do I do?
So I think that
I mean,
think
I
that,
understand going forward, but there's.
right, but the governor's guidance has been in place with regard to remote meetings. I think if they meet remotely, if, you know, a compromise with the fact that they posted it publicly is if at that location, there is a way for someone to zoom in. They could be present there and you could have someone from the town who is willing to be there and mask and be the remote portal. But it's been remote for a long time. I'm not quite sure why it got posted as an in-person, but I think you can do a hybrid. And I think what the challenge is, if I hear you, is that you want to make sure that people who are planning to be there in person and maybe can't zoom in can participate. Is that?
No. They want to close the door. They don't want them to. They don't want them to be there. The room is all set up for Zoom. We spent $15,000 to set up the room for Zoom, and then having it both to have in person and the public that doesn't feel safe and comfortable to attend to be able to partake through Zoom. The board is just voted to say that you can't enter the building.
The compromise would be they could go ahead with their in-person meeting as long as nobody outside of the budget committee attends this meeting and that they are masked. And I would agree to that, but going forward, there are no more in-person meetings.
Is there space in there for them to be distanced in that room?
Not really.
No, not really.
Because I
Naomi,
think
that's the room where EBA.
it was which room, the room we met in when we did our negotiations?
Yeah.
Yes.
And how many people are on the committee?
7.
6.
6? I mean, I think all of these are kind of a judgment call. I think the governor's guidance certainly supports you in moving things remote. I think it's pretty clear that we are back on remote.
Okay.
But if they
Compromise would, excuse me. The compromise would be that for this one time, that the utility office tech room would be used for them to meet in person. After that, they can schedule Zoom meetings. And
so I think the question is if it's posted as a public meeting and the public wants to come, does having it in that room then create a problem? Because once you have more than 6 people in there, like if there's a lot of people who want to attend, I think they have to think about rescheduling.
My understanding is it was the committee members themselves that want to be there.
Oh, no, I understand that. But if you're posting it as a public meeting, the reason that you post it is to allow people who are interested in the subject matter and want to be there to attend. And I think that's where things get complicated in a small room right now.
the people can attend over Zoom.
Yeah, and if they can attend over Zoom, there's always just a few people who don't Zoom and want to be there in person. And my concern is just that if you have a lot of people there who want to participate, and maybe you'll have none. I mean, often there aren't a lot of participants.
Budget committee is not well attended.
So, I mean, I think it's allowing there to be a suspension of the meeting and a rescheduling if it ends up being a well-attended meeting that means that you can't socially distance and mask. And then, you can make a decision that all meetings are going to be Zoom meetings until further notice.
How does that work for the rest of us?
So what are we saying, that we adhere to our decision and respectfully ask the budget committee to reschedule their meeting?
I mean, sorry,
I believe it was posted as a public meeting, knowing that people who wanted to be there would be Zooming in. I think that for the most part, it is just the committee that wants to be in person. That is what I suspect.
So can Charlie pull up how it is posted on the town calendar for the meeting? What the verbiage is? Does it say meeting in person? Because not only would they be there, you have to have PB Andrew from PB to be there too. So that's another person who will be in the small area.
Andrew would be in the other room.
So what is the issue here? Because it's short notice?
Short notice.
Yeah, I would say at the very least, I mean, they've got it posted already within 24 hours.
What does the posting say, Charlie? Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, it just says 2021 budget presentations. It's similar to ours,
No, could you read it exactly,
this
please?
meeting will occur over Zoom per the, time, date, and place. Ashland Utility, 6 Collins Street. The governor's emergency order number 12, the requirement to have a quorum of public body present. We encourage those to participate to please call the numbers below. The purpose is 2021 budget preparations, budget committee, December 8th, 3:00, Zoom, meeting ID, passcode, and mobile.
So they do have a Zoom link at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I am.
In that case, the compromise is they go ahead with their meeting as posted, but no more in-person meetings.
Yes. We need to make it very clear. This is the decision we're making for everybody's health and safety. We have Zoom. We have all the information to Zoom, and they need to use that technology per the governor's order, which has been in place for almost 9 months now. So is that what we're deciding on?
I'm sorry, but I don't know what else. I don't know if we have enough time to get in contact with everyone, because Eli's right. These budget committee members will show up and expecting they're having a meeting.
Like I said, compromise is we go ahead with this one, but no more.
But none after that.
Correct. Yes,
Question.
that's.
Alan?
Do they have anybody that would want to be the host besides Charlie? I'm just curious.
Alan, last time we had we had tried the Zoom. They all called in and it was difficult because we had no cameras. They couldn't look at each other. Trying to talk. And being the fact that we're just about ready to get into preparing the budget and the warrant, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I can try to work with the chairman to host it through the Zoom to let people talk and try to get everyone on the same page. But I have concerns about this, that this might be very difficult for the budget committee. I'm sorry, but some of the folks that attend just are not technically inclined with all of this.
Charlie, how often do they meet?
Well, at least once a month. And like I just said, they just barely got into the budget last meeting. And they haven't even seen the warrant. And we have 6 weeks. I think we have to post for the public hearing in, 5 weeks.
Is there any way that the town can support their technology needs?
I mean, I have this one computer that has a camera. I mean, like I said, Naomi, there's the whole plan. That's why we put all the money into the cameras in that room.
Well, I don't think that's the issue right now, Charlie. So let's leave that behind. It's
I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm just saying that's why we did it.
A computer or a phone that they can't participate. We went with this, oh my gosh, what, months ago, we went around and around with this. So this is not new. This has been placed for almost 9 months now. So we make a decision. They have a meeting tomorrow. Nobody outside come in, and going forward until further notice, for the governor's orders, they will have to find a way to do their business through Zoom. If it's a conference call, it's not new technology. Conference calls have been around for a very long time. Work can be done. We've got our work done as a board since April, Zooming. So we made our decision. And
So
either
just to respond,
they either reschedule tomorrow or they do it with the parameters that decided on.
so just to clarify though, if they are going to hold their meeting in person, but not let anyone attend, you'll have an open meetings problem unless there's a way for the public to participate.
We have issued a Zoom connection.
Okay. And so the public can participate by Zoom.
The public can always participate by Zoom. Whether they have a phone, computer, or tablet.
Okay. I think that's just an important component of it. I mean, I think that's the one piece. I think
I don't
also,
know, Naomi, if that's, I mean, I don't know if that was part of the order or not, but I mean, I guess the question is, what if you don't have a phone or a computer?
well, I think that's an issue that we're dealing with statewide with all meetings. I mean, your meetings are by Zoom and the public gets to participate in those. I think if you've set up that room so that there is Zoom technology, so while they are meeting, they will be visible and people can hear them. I think that's the critical piece, and people can participate. And if the Zoom connection doesn't work for some reason, you need to reschedule. You need to cancel and reschedule.
The meetings, if they're recorded, are posted on YouTube, usually within 24 to 48 hours, so people may not see it streaming live, but
They
are
need to
able
have
see
real
them.
time.
You have to have access.
It needs to be real time.
You have to have access.
They can phone in.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's the parameter. I mean, 91A has been modified by the governor's order.
Yeah,
I think it was number 12.
that's
To
it.
the extent, excuse me?
That's it. That's the number.
So, you know, that's changed the requirement about being in person, and it's changed the requirement for the public being in person as well. And hopefully we will get back to it soon, but I think that the board should also just start thinking about town meeting. New Hampshire Municipal Association just put out some guidance, which Charlie, if you have it, it wouldn't be a bad idea for everybody
yeah, I
to
was
just
gonna say.
start looking at it and see what you think about it. And, you know, if you have questions, we're here to help you. And I think everybody's sort of just starting to work up to what town meeting's going to look like.
Thank you, Naomi, for that information.
Sure.
So we allow this one meeting of the board, of the committee, of the budget committee, be in there in person, and that's it. And is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Charlie?
We need to move our meeting along. Our connection's getting worse. So have we exhausted this topic now? Have we made
I think so.
the decision? Are we gonna do it by
Anybody else?
consensus?
We had a motion and it was approved, so I think we can
Yeah.
move on.
You want to put a starting date on that?
Starting December 9th, which will be the day after tomorrow. That gives them time to plan.
Okay. Charlie, you got that?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm in trouble. He called me sir. Are we done with this topic?
The next one, Naomi, do you want non-public or non-meeting session?
That's up to you. The difference is non-public. You need to keep minutes. But you're already in non-public, and it can be non-public under L for advice from counsel.
Mhm.
So it can be either, you can adjourn and do a non-meeting, or you can do it as non-public.
Do I?
Adjourn
So
and
what
non-meeting, I'd say adjourn and non-meeting.
I agree.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Great. I'll
Motion to
second
adjourn?
that.
Yeah, and it's
Any
about,
further discussion?
it's collective bargaining.
Okay. Kathleen DeWolf? Motion to
Aye.
adjourn. Alan Silly,
Aye.
Fran Newton,
Aye.
Andy Fitch,
Aye.
Eli Rogers says aye.